And by the way, when you're telling these little stories, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
There's several times where I question whether Warner Brothers or Sony is the worst when it comes to handling superhero franchises. I mean, at least Warner Brothers was able to use iconic characters like Batman and Superman in their projects. Meanwhile, Sony's more focused on making villains into anti-heroes. Granted, it is difficult to turn iconic supervillains into morally complex anti-heroes. Oh wait. The more I think about the concept of this Sony Spider-Man universe that doesn't have Spider-Man in it, or whatever they're supposed to be calling it, the more frustrated I get, because it's not, in any sense of the word, a connected universe. They can pretend like it is all they want, but the only thing that has ever connected any of these films together is that one line in Morbius where he says, outside of that, Venom has not come into contact with anyone outside of a post-credit scene in Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm going to try to keep this brief, but I'm just bringing this up because the Kraven trailer just dropped, and I can't help but look at that film and wonder, do you guys have any idea what you're doing right now? Because it doesn't seem like you do. You start out with a Venom movie that was meant to be rated R, but then they chickened out and made it PG-13 to make more money, and surprise, it actually did make a ton of money for some reason. Then they intended on making a Morbius movie that was a complete and utter disaster, going through reshoots and rewrites and delays and trailers that included footage that never even wound up in the movie, and they wouldn't even release that one until after the second Venom movie came out. And now, after a nice peaceful 2023 where we were joking about Morbius and laughing about how bad this whole franchise is and trying to forget about it, 2024 will be responsible for 3 of these films. Madam Web, that disaster piece that we endured on Valentine's Day this year, Venom The Last Dance, which comes out in a couple of months now, and lastly, Kraven the Hunter. Beyond that, in December, we have no idea what they're doing with this franchise, and hopefully that means they're done. Unfortunately, that's probably not what's going to happen. I remember when they were supposed to make a Black Cat and Silver Sable movie that eventually got split into 2, and then both of them got axed. They were going to make a Jackpot movie. Is that even still in the works? El Muerto was supposed to get a spin-off with Bad Bunny playing him, and I'm sure that would have been horrible. Thankfully, they tossed that in the trash, because who would have watched that? Me. I would have watched it. Just for the review. Sony cannot figure out that the only thing that is making them any ounce of success right now is these animated Spider-Man movies, but apparently now we're not going to get Beyond the Spider-Verse for another 2 to 3 years, so who even knows when that's going to come out or when we're going to get more of this stuff. Nicolas Cage is supposed to have a live-action Spider-Man noir series at Amazon Prime. There was that Silk show at Amazon Prime. Is that actually happening still, or is that dead in the water? So yeah, all in all, this is just really ridiculous of them to be even making this. I don't understand why they even bother. They think there's money in this. There's not. Yeah, you have 2 successful Venom movies, because people apparently find these amazing. I don't know why. They're like the dumbest freaking movies you could possibly have, and I was genuinely put off by both of them, because Venom without Spider-Man, unless you're doing the Lethal Protector story and making it work, doesn't work. They're not even doing the symbiote right. Instead of Eddie being influenced by the symbiote and giving him, symbiotic powers, we have this freaking puppet hanging off of him, calling him a loser and mocking him. Does that make any freaking sense? The whole point of the symbiote was meant to mimic addiction and how that kind of negative influence can impact a person. This is just 2 idiots butting heads and Tom Hardy doing the weirdest accent I've ever heard, and that includes bike riders.
I will let you eat everybody! Promise! I promise! Oh yeah!
It's bizarre to me that we have 3 Venom movies, and Venom doesn't have the iconic spider on his chest. We haven't even had him meet Spider-Man yet. The post-credit scene of Venom Let There Be Carnage kind of teed up like that was going to happen, and then we got him for a brief smidge in No Way Home, and then past that point, who freaking knows? This movie is going to come out in a couple of months, so everything I'm talking about is going to be null and void, obsolete, whatever. But at the same time, I can't help but just be very curious as to what this franchise is supposed to even become after Venom The Last Dance, considering this is supposed to be the last Venom movie there is. And there's no culmination point. I hate saying that, because you should just be able to watch one film and enjoy a film by itself and not have to worry about setting up for the next thing or what are we building to or anything like that. But when you have a franchise that you're marketing as a interconnected universe, a shared universe amongst a bunch of different properties, you better pay that off at some point. Why are you stacking all these dominoes if you're not going to eventually like tip them over and reveal a really cool design pattern? I mean, really, the MCU is the only one who's actually figured this out, and even they're in kind of a dry spell right now in terms of quality. We all remember how the Dark Universe tried and failed hard, and the DCEU is one of the biggest botch jobs I've ever seen in terms of setting up a franchise and just falling flat on your face. So yeah, just wanted to talk about that for a bit because this film franchise is just absolutely anarchic and has no reason existing at all, especially considering how much money Sony is pumping into these things, and only half of them have had a really good return on investment, and I'm sure Venom will probably be the only profitable movie they make this year in that franchise. So let me know down below, do you think I'm dead wrong? Do you think these movies are actually good? I'd love to see how our opinions differentiate, but like this video if you like this video, subscribe if you want more videos like this, click the links in the description if you want to find my Letterboxd and other social media posts. I have reviews on Letterboxd long before I ever post these videos on YouTube reviewing movies. I will have a new review coming out this weekend for Alien Romulus after I see that on Thursday night. And until then, God be with you and take care.